Hello fight fans, Clash of MMA here with heavyweight edition content for you today. So sit back, press the buttons to support our channel, and enjoy the video. People have always loved to spectate two giant monsters slug it out in a one-on-one fight. What separates the heaviest division from the lighter ones is the shortcut they can use to get to victory. That shortcut is called punching power.
Jump with Ngannou! Oh! Goes the Reem! Francis!
Everyone enjoys the fact that heavyweight MMA fighters can end a fight quickly and suddenly because of the power of their punch. As big a role as correct punching technique plays, genetic factors are also an important link when it comes to sending another person to the shadow realm. Accordingly, there are genetically gifted heavyweights walking the earth today, actively competing and putting people to sleep. But before we move on to them, an honorable mention is needed for those who paved the way and came before them, such as the indestructible Mark Hunt, the supreme boxer Junior Dos Santos, the inimitable Shane Carwin, the heavy-handed Russian Andrei Arlovsky, and the rage-driven Wanderlei Silva. Melvin Manhoef also brutalized people in the heavyweight division and many others that we will leave for you to mention in the comments. Derrick Lewis. Of course, the vast majority of these giants are in the best promotion in the world, the UFC. Nobody can sing a lullaby with fists like the Black Beast from Louisiana. Derrick Lewis holds the UFC knockout record, and that's all you need to know. 28 wins and 23 finishes. A decade of competition at the highest level features knockout after knockout. When Lewis enters the battlefield, he either finishes the opponent or gets finished. The opposition can have good jiu-jitsu, wrestling, footwork, and whatnot, but Derrick has punching power that is mostly sufficient. This is best evidenced by his fight with Alexander Volkov. The Black Beast is still active, serving up knockouts and extending his record with every appearance in the cage. Win or lose, it doesn't matter with him. People will always pay to see his fist stray on the head of an unfortunate opponent. Sergei Pavlovich. It would be impossible not to mention the man who knocked out Derrick. Sergei Pavlovich is his heavy-handed colleague who has 18 wins and 15 knockouts. In 12 first fights, the Russian only went to decision twice, competing in Russian promotions and staying very little in the fight. When it came time to put his punching skills to the test against elite competition, Sergei spared no expense and knocked out many of the UFC's biggest names. The man is the king of first-round knockouts who doesn't know what the second round looks like in the UFC. The former F&G heavyweight champion almost reached the UFC gold, but was stopped by our next candidate, Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall. The current interim heavyweight champion is a master of performance bonuses. Tommy is a well-rounded MMA fighter who can achieve victory in various ways, but with a record of 14 wins and 11 knockouts, his hands should not and cannot be overlooked. The young heavyweight has his entire career ahead of him and has already shown the ability to finish opponents in the first round. Thomas, unlike Pavlovich, never went to a decision, and in addition, he only truly lost once due to a heel hook submission early in his career. Aspinall also has one professional boxing match under his belt, which also ended in a knockout. And you won't believe it, yes, in the first round. Don't be fooled by his gentle nature. Tom will put you out if you meet him in the octagon. Jarzinho Rozenstruik. Although he was not as successful in the UFC as previous fighters, Jarzinho Rozenstruik is like the Surinamese version of Francis Ngannou. We've already mentioned him in previous videos, so we'll go over it quickly. 14 wins and 13 knockouts are under his name thanks to his African killer fists. Jarzinho also left behind an impressive kickboxing record of 76 wins and as many as 64 knockouts. Biggie Boy shares the cage with big names. Some he finished, some finished him, but the sudden knockout was always present in his fights. Just recently, Jars returned to winning ways when he destroyed Shamil Gaziev's undefeated record and face in the 4th round. Tai Tuivasa. Another active heavy-handed heavyweight from the top 15 is everyone's favorite Tai Bam Bam Tuivasa. He's currently on a 4-fight losing streak, but that doesn't mean his destructive power isn't there. In 14 MMA wins, he has knocked out 13 opponents and has a boxing record of 5 wins and 3 knockouts because Tai is a natural brawler who knows how to use his fists. Tuivasa is the type of guy who will do anything but take the fight to a decision, and if he knocks you out, you can be sure that he will climb the fence and drink beer from someone else's shoe while you are unconscious. Stipe Miocic. It would be ungrateful to leave the UFC section without mentioning the greatest heavyweight of all time, who reached the title and defended it several times using his punching expertise. We all know what quality competition Stipe Miocic went through to get the UFC title, and then what kind of people he defended it against. He's no stranger to going to a decision and winning there, but in 20 wins he has 15 knockouts. More of a technician like Aspinall than a power puncher, but his name still has to be on the list of heavy hands. While he's not as active as he once was, we believe we'll see him again one more time and against John Jones. So we'll have a chance to see how Bones fares against fists like Stipe's. Renan Ferreira. The PFL has one guy on their roster whose shots are not something fighters would enjoy feeling. It's hard to think of an MMA fighter who's bigger than Ngannou, but Renan Ferreira is 4 inches taller. The Brazilian giant has been knocking people out since 2013, and out of 13 wins, he has 11 knockouts. He's the winner of the heavyweight PFL belt from 2023 when he won their tournament with Knockout Series, and in the recent past, he knocked out Bellator's champion Ryan Bader in the first round for PFL champion versus Bellator champion Super Belt. Only once in 19 fights has he gone to a decision, which speaks volumes for his tendency to wipe out his opponents with one touch. Of course, we all can't wait to see him against Francis Ngannou in the PFL, where he will get his biggest test yet. Francis Ngannou. Speaking of the devil, the PFL really enriched his roster when it brought in the UFC heavyweight giant Francis Ngannou. He has yet to perform under their banner, but he's officially counted as their fighter. It's a bit ironic for the PFL considering that all the highlights of his knockouts are from the UFC and earlier. However, the Predator needs the least introduction here. His hands, developed in the clay mines, helped him clear the opposition placed in front of him, and he would do it faster than Charles Oliveira climbing his opponent's back. The man has 96 horsepower behind his blows, which, as Dana White says, is equal to getting hit by a Ford Escort going as fast as it can and more powerful than a 12-pound sledgehammer swung full force from overhead. Anatoly Malykhin. With a 100% finish rate, Anatoly Malykhin is a bad Russian and is currently the champion in 3 divisions at one championship. He's the winner of the golden medal at the WMMAA World Championship and a world grappling champion who extends his field of expertise to submission finishes. Still, Spartak is the man who owns the heavy Russian artillery when it comes to punches. Most of his opponents did not hear the bell of the second round, and even those who did not see the end of the fight. That is, they did, but after they were knocked the hell out. Anatoly, with his style and aggression, reminds us of Fedor Emelianenko and is the first man in the history of MMA to become champion in 3 different categories. It would be great to see the killer Russian in the UFC testing his skills against the best of his weight class. Mariusz Pudzianowski. It's not strange that KSW superstar Mariusz Pudzianowski is among today's fighters. He is a multiple-time world's strongest man who holds records for pushing, pulling, carrying, and throwing heavy things that 5 average people cannot move. Well, you can imagine the punching power of a man who's able to pull an 88,185-pound plane for 27 yards. Pudziano is a man of success who transferred his strength to the MMA cage, where he holds the record for the most wins and the most knockouts in KSW heavyweight history. In 27 bouts, he has 17 wins and 12 knockouts. Of course, Mariusz is far from the elite level of a professional MMA fighter and would not be able to deal with the other fighters on this list. But when it comes to KSW, Poland has its own heavy hitter. Vitaly Minakov. When we have mentioned the active-inactive Stipe Miocic, there's no reason not to dedicate a few words to Vitaly Minakov. Although he has been inactive since his 2021 loss due to a broken finger, the former Bellator heavyweight champion returned to the cage, but under boxing rules and MMA gloves against Ollie Thompson in 2024. After a long break, Vitaly celebrated his victory by the judge's decision. It's always good to see a grappling champion possess dangerous hands. The new emperor has taken a few pages out of Fedor's book and wreaked havoc in 24 fights so far. Vitaly has 22 wins and 13 knockouts. It's not necessary that he knocks out the opponent with just one punch, but when he lets his hands go, the opponents mostly end up in big trouble. Sergei Kharitonov. Have you guys ever heard of Sergei Pavlovich? Well, Sergei is an MMA veteran who is a multiple silver medalist in boxing, world champion in kickboxing, Russian Sambo champion, and winner of several MMA titles from different promotions. Sergei is over 40 years old and has almost 50 fights. And what is most impressive is that Paratrooper is still active. That's why he's on this list, next to the fact that out of 36 wins, he has 25 knockouts, thanks to the sledgehammers he carries for his hands. Kharitonov cemented the last 4 opponents with his fists, defended the Paris FC heavyweight title, and managed to win 2 more MMA heavyweight titles in just the last 2 years of his career. In 23 years of competition, he fought everywhere. Pride, Bellator, M1 Challenge, Dream, you name the promotion, and Sergei knocked out people there.